Marito and the two other hooligans are dreading their decision to even bother translating the book, since it has caused a number of hair-raising concerns. The traveler even suggests that they innocently return the book to the kingdom of Megis without intruding further, but Marito beams brightly and states that he has to delve into the book's contents for the sake of his nation. The traveler isn't so enthused about doing such a thing. After having tea and cooling his head off, the traveler internalizes that they were all begging for the book to be a work of fiction, even though it was far from the horrid reality. To shift the topic, the traveler inquires if the kingdom of Taizu has its own assassins. Marito is surprised by the question and confirms that he has a few assassins currently investigating the origins of the book, yet he cannot share their details to protect the young man's safety. The traveler emphasizes that he wants to know more about the pattern thinking and behaviors of an assassin. Marito once again denies him of the privilege and assures him that he will handle that part. Due to his pandering, Marito gives up and introduces him to one of his assassins in an astonishing manner. The assassin grabs the young man's shoulder from behind. The traveler flinches and is frightened enough to turn at once. Marito emphasizes that it would be best not to look behind, since the assassin's identity is kept a secret. The traveler gets flustered, since he is alarmed enough to suspect that he might get killed. The inconspicuous assassin apologizes for introducing himself in such a way, and explains that he's the king's bodyguard. When the traveler questions if he stays near Marito at all times, the assassin confirms the fact, and explains that he is capable of using special magic to camouflage his body. Marito even confirms that he is the most powerful figure in the kingdom of Taizu, which gives him weight as a protective force. This guy plays real life among us and is probably the hitman of this universe. The traveler is impressed and jokingly questions if the assassin has been secretly chipping off people more talented than him to maintain his position. The assassin is glad that the sharp-witted young man was able to decipher that part out loud. The assassin also explains that he has been part of all of their interactions and has come to trust the young man in reality. He mentions even contemplating killing the young man for surprising King Marito with his trick back at the banquet hall, which raises a number of concerns for the traveler. The traveler feels immense pressure and questions if the assassin is weak against the magic sealing stones, since he uses magic to conceal himself in the first place. The assassin confirms that this is the case, and also notes that he has the ability to perceive and deduce the power of the magic sealing stones, thereby allowing himself the chance to avoid them at once. He coldly emphasizes that if he were to get seen by any witness, he would have to terminate them at once. Once again, the young man is startled by his words, and begs the assassin not to appear in front of him. Dude, I'd literally bleach my eyes before even accidentally seeing this guy. After that, they shared a conversation delving into the abilities and the backstory of the assassin, allowing the young man to understand the role of an expert assassin even better. The traveler exits the castle quarters and finds himself blinded by the sunlight because of his overnight shift to translate the heavy text. He sees Elas and finds himself surprised that her shift is starting this early. Elas confirms that she is about to go on patrol and is embarrassed enough to question if he was sharing some good times with Lacra. The young man realizes that he's in for an Avengers level threat because the girl thinks he's interested in Lacra. He clears the misunderstanding that their affair is regarding the book that Doala stole. Elas shows a relieved expression, while the young man apologizes for not informing her sooner about the matter. Elas tells him that it's fine and accidentally spills, and she feels sad. The young man capitalizes on her misstep and makes her even more flustered. Elas tries to sidestep the conversation by stating that Wolf is also worried about him. The traveler deduces that Wolf is most likely to be worried about Elas instead of him. Suddenly, a knight comes to inform Elas about an urgent matter. The young man acknowledges the tense atmosphere and hovers to the gathering of the knights. He spots a covered dead body and thinks that it's unfortunate. That is until he spots a familiar bottle of sake, one that he provided to Gazin. The young man's eyes widen as he succumbs to the realization. He marches ahead and takes off the cover without permission, confirming that it is indeed Gazin's dead body. Elas asks if he knows the older man. The traveler agrees and refuses to elaborate beyond that. He is told that Gazin fell to his demise while drunk and hitting his head against the wall. The young man finds the cause of death to be dubious, and he begins to connect the dots in his head. He smells the fresh sake that he had given to Gazin just the other day, and deduces that Gazin couldn't have become drunk since it's a special bottle that he asked Gaz to create. Elas wonders if there is something wrong. The traveler asks where Gazin's body will be moved. Elas explains that they will put him in the Maya church. He requests permission to come along and briefly hints about his suspicions. The young man is adamant in his belief that Gazin was murdered, a revelation that shocks Elas. He explains that Gazin should have at least used his hands to protect himself from the fall, which, in this case, he didn't since his entire body is uninjured besides his head. My guy is role-playing the world's great detective side of Batman right now. Shifting the scene to the church, Gazin's body is unveiled in front of Maya and the others. Elas reports that the man has a broken neck, and it's confirmed that the cause is anything but the injury against the wall. Realizing that a murderer broke his neck, the young man reveals an unsightly appearance of his true nature, which is enough to send shivers down Elas' spine. She feels compelled to grab him at once and questions where he is headed. The young man claims that he is heading to the castle to report the matter to Marito. Elas inquires why he's hesitant to share the matter with her. The traveler emphasizes that he doesn't want to involve them in their discussion, to which Elas roars, saying that she is already involved. The young man reminds her she will have to shoulder the burden of keeping the matter a secret. Elas affirms that she is fine with doing that, so long as she is able to help the traveler shoulder the burden together. When told that she will come to regret her choices, Elas once again determines that she wants to regret reality being a part of him, rather than letting him regret it alone. Best girl Elas counter 1. Her words are able to dispel his cold and heartless state, who wonders why she is so stubborn about their ordeal. He thinks that it is partly his fault for hinting at his emotions, which is something he usually doesn't bring to the surface. The traveler hopes Marito will resolve his situation at the castle. He finally resigns and agrees to take her along. Elas' face beams with delight as she has managed to proclaim victory. Later, at the castle, Marito calls into question the appearance of Elas. The traveler explains that she willingly wanted to get involved in the matter. Marito knows that the young man could have pushed her away if he really wanted to, but he chose to value their relationship instead. King Marito declares that their situation and conflicts have become alarming, which is why Elas should resign any expectations of savoring her relationships with Maya and Commander Ragdo's team if it comes to be the case. He reminds her that she will have to choose between the young man, who is a stranger to her, and her allies. The night Elas declares that she is ready to accept that reality. When Marito inquires what compels her to act in such a manner, Elas has no answer except her determination. Marito turns to the traveler and emphasizes that he'll be the one to take responsibility. As such, the man immediately explains that Lacra is under the threat of being assassinated. Of course, for Elas, this is like jumping into chapter 5 of the story without explaining chapter 1. To make amends, the traveler tries to explain from the point of view of the demon lord worshipper in the Yugura church, which, once again, just like us readers, Elas raises her hands since she doesn't know anything about the matter. The young realizes that he has to explain from the very beginning to keep her up to date. After a long-winded explanation, he arrives at the part of them deciphering the book. Elas questions why Lacra's life is in danger. The young man explains that the Yugura church operates with 2 goals, one of which is to recover their treasured, lost book, and the second is to resolve the doubts of the people about Maya's incompetence. Since Maya is as clumsy as she is, the young man has reason to believe that she has dispatched a team in secret to do the job for her. If such a possibility does come to be the case, it's fairly obvious that this team will have to conceal their identities and will have to take the role of the assassins. Elas connects the dots and realizes that it must be the assassins who killed Gazin. I love how Elas is being utilized as a device to explain things to the readers. Brilliant job. The young man confirms and shares the problematic timeline of the affairs. He explains that Archbishop Uka is mainly responsible for ordering Lacra about her mission. Yet, upon closer inspection, they've come to notice that even the Archbishop Uka is taking orders from someone above. King Marito explains that there is only one person above Uka, Pope Yupero, who wouldn't issue such orders since he was trying to maintain their relationship strongly and even requested cooperation. Despite the call for cooperation, Gazin was at once killed the second they wanted to negotiate peacefully. That's the concerning part, as it indicates that there is another person issuing commands to the assassins, a man of powerful influence in Yugura Church, a man who specifically rebels against the Pope's will. The traveler explains that their mission is to acquire this book, and hints at the person who is most likely to acquire the book. Elas jolts into the realization that it's actually Lacra, who boasts the most chances of acquiring the fabled book. The young man confirms that if their suspicions are correct, the goal would be to steal the book before it even reaches the kingdom of Megis. This would, in turn, require the murder of Lacra, as they would have to steal the book from her. As for the contents of the book itself, the young man emphasizes that it's a dangerous topic, as the reason most people are hunting this book down is not because this book is related to necromancy, but because this book is regarding a demon lord. Marito explains that forbidden magic is necessary to give rise to such demon lords, and although there was little information about the magic itself, the record before them is the observations and events regarding the birth of the Blue Demon Lord, who is one of the entities born as a result of resurrection magic. Elas is alarmed and finds herself shocked at once. The traveler explains that the book is of utmost importance, and that it's likely the Pope of the Ugura Church himself has failed to decipher the book, since he would have made proper arrangements and sent someone far more competent for the job, instead of Lacra. Poor girl Lacra is getting dis left and right behind her back, ha ha ha. The young man declares that the book originated from the kingdom of Megis, therefore, its existence is only known to the Ugura Church and the kingdom itself. He has suspicions that there is one man who knows the contents of the book, that even the Pope himself is unaware of. That man is the individual hiding under the shelters of the Ugura Church, while knowing everything about the demon lords. Elas realizes that this is the demon lord worshipper that the young man alluded to previously. The traveler explains that it is at least certain there is someone in the Ugura Church who is issuing orders to the assassins to recover the book, and they get to be the ones to stop them from achieving their goals. Now that everything has been fleshed out and explained, Marito states that he is to give Lacra the book today, and wonders if the young man has any ideas. The traveler answers that their chances of success have all increased because of the involvement of Elas. They go about their little meeting about a plan that has not yet been revealed to the readers. King Marito finds it a great plan, but wonders if he is truly on board with this. The black dialogue boxes hint that this is the young man's true side speaking, as he is compelled by the thought of avenging Gazin. King Marito resigns the affair under his care, while the traveler inquires if Elas is truly up for the job. Elas plunges her blade into the ground and confirms that she will hold her blade, promising to exceed his expectations. The young man exits the room, declaring that he will be the one to expose their plan. From the perspective of Elas, who serves as an exposition tool for the readers, she has clearly noted the shift in the young man's demeanor after witnessing the death of someone he valued. Elas realizes that the young man tries his best to suppress this side of him, and he is slowly advancing to their end. But she is gravely mistaken. He has the capability to become the ultimate justice or the manifestation of evil. Elas also believes that King Marito is the one taming the traveler, and she doesn't know how that will resolve, as he would probably prioritize the side of him that is cruel and heartless. Elas regrets seeing his eyes full of dread, devoid of any emotion. She doesn't want him to experience the world with such eyes, and vows to stay by his side. Best girl Elas counter 2. Lacra, being the clumsy, naive yet adorable fool that she is, thinks that she's doing her job in a stellar manner, having put up all the necessary barriers. Suddenly, she spots the one she refers to as the candidate, and questions why he's here. The young man immediately jumps to the point and explains that the book is residing in the castle's treasury. Lacra's face lights up in joy as she commends him for finding the book at last. He tells her basic information about the book, such as its otherworldly language and its contents relating to necromancy. Lacra explains that necromancy can be distinguished based on the illustrations, which the human confirms were drawn in the book. Lacra warns him not to memorize any of the contents and asks if she is fine with taking the book. The young man confirms that she can, but he wants her to relay a message to the Archbishop before she is able to do so, declaring that the language could possibly be deciphered in the kingdom of Taizu, and that if the church aims for the contents to be deciphered, the kingdom of Taizu requires them to share the contents of the book. Lacra defies such a condition because the knowledge of necromancy shouldn't be known commonly. The man emphasizes that the contents aren't just related to necromancy, which is why he extends the proposal to her. The traveler emphasizes that the reason he became a candidate is because he was hired by King Marito to decipher the contents of the book. This fact, once again, is a half-truth that Lacra can't see through, and the traveler excellently takes advantage of it. The traveler pleads with her to inform Archbishop Ucca that the matter could jeopardize Pope Eupero's career, and if the church still rejects their proposal, they'll return the book at once. He tells her to return at midnight for the answer, and he will bring the book regardless of the conclusion. Lacra understands his demands and declares that she will inform the Archbishop at once. She turns to leave, while the young man internalizes how each of those who could see through lies is easily manipulated and trusting of him, since he can sway them with half-truths. That's why it's so easy for him to take advantage of people like Lacra. The young man knows that the so-called mastermind pulling the strings from the shadows is also going to get wind of this message, and he is looking forward to meeting his advance. Sheesh, he's just finessing the lie detectors with his expert manipulation. The scene shifts to the leader of the assassins group, the Demon Lord Worshipper, who is assigned to this mission. Lahit receives new information from his master about Lakra's position. His master tells them to make adjustments accordingly, and issues an order to kill both Lakra and her partner to retrieve the book. He even emphasizes that the death of Lakra's partner, that being the black-haired young man, is more important than Lakra herself. He wants Lahit to return with the man's brain, without any damage. Lahit doesn't comprehend the man's objectives and accepts the order. On the other hand, the Demon Lord Worshipper recalls the peculiar features of the young man, and questions if he is an earthling. He uses a communication device to link with the Red Demon Lord, and explains that there is something he must know. Exactly at midnight, Lahit and his group of assassins gather around their targets, who are waiting for Lakra. Lahit has 4 assassins under him, and he doesn't appreciate the thought of battling against Elas, who is one of the strongest knights of the Taizu kingdom. Instead, he prefers taking on the demi-human, who boasts little skill compared to her magic power. Lahit thinks that they can eliminate her at once if they attack together. As for the young man, he's just considered F-tier fodder and the easiest target within reach. The main trouble comes in the form of the magician, who has just arrived. Lakra Solf is a woman who possessed extraordinary fighting capabilities, contrasting her unreliability. Lahit thinks the situation will become unfavorable for them if both Elas and Lakra join forces, as they would push them into a retreat. Lahit directs 2 of his men to distract Elas, while the rest will fixate their efforts in killing Lakra. The traveler reveals that he has the book on him, but Lakra is almost embarrassed to confess that the Archbishop fully declined their proposal and demanded a retrieval of the book. Of course, this was within the young man's expectations, so he willingly offered her the book for free. Lakra can't comprehend why he would simply follow his words, even if the church rejected their proposal. She can't comprehend how he is able to return it without hesitation. The young man reasons that the Taizu kingdom doesn't hope to worsen their relationship with the kingdom of Megis and the Yugura church. Of course, his reasoning is sound and can be considered a half-truth. Elas hears a sound coming from around the block and loudly declares that she will check the field. The assassins are all stunned because it's not a sound that they made. They're grateful that Elas separated from the group regardless, giving them the perfect opportunity to strike. The traveler tells Lakra that she should accomplish her objective without thinking much of it. Just as she is about to receive the book, the young man drops it on the ground and pretends as if that was a genuine mistake. While they are busy grabbing it from the ground, the assassins pounce upon them in an effort to kill the distracted 3. Lakra is about to be eliminated from behind, when Elas the Knight immediately arrives with a wide-range slash attack, fending off their strike. The attack protected all 3 of them and showed her impressive might in battle. Lakra doesn't know what's happening, and the traveler grabs her and orders Lakra to set up a barrier at once. Lakra instantly casts her defensive barrier without question, while Lahit descends to the ground. Lahit is rather impressed that Elas was able to negate multiple attacks with a single strike at that range. Elas thinks it wasn't even that much of a deal since they anticipated the attack. She also reveals that her strategy to leave was intentional, to outplay the assassins. Lahit catches on that the strategy to drop the book was also intentional, and mentions his interest in learning necromancy like Doala. His confession confirms to the young man that these are the assassins belonging to the Megis kingdom. Lakra is perplexed because she still doesn't know what's going on. The traveler explains that instead of the Archbishop Akka, someone else has made her a target of assassination. Elas prepares herself to face the 3 assassins in front of her. Lahit reminds her that they're not to be underestimated, as one of the assassins easily recovered from her previous attack. Lahit believes they have a chance of victory, since Lakra has sealed herself inside the barrier, allowing them the chance to defeat Elas and the demi-human. Elas thinks that they're being overconfident, and thinking only 3 will be enough to take down the legendary knight. The assassin confirms that they're not so stupid as to attack head-on, and immediately casts his invisibility magic. The magic conceals their presence, troubling Elas and startling Lakra, who gets attacked by one of the assassins. Meanwhile, Wolf is struggling against the invisible assassins. Lakra is bawling her eyes out in worry. The young man emphasizes that they will all be okay, and glares at her with his calculating eyes. Lakra is intimidated enough to question why he's making such a face. The young man realizes that he messed up once more by making that idiotic face while he's strategizing in his mind. He cools down and tells Lakra that it will be over soon, thanks to his strategy. Bro has a resting planning face. Returning to Wolf's fight, she slowly gets overwhelmed by the inconspicuous and troublesome assassins. Wolf confesses that she wants to give up being normal and instead charges her powers to eliminate them, using non-conventional strategies of her own. Releasing the surge of magic power, Wolf prepares a fist and declares that she will exemplify her master's teachers. The assassin thinks that she's giving them a wide opening with such an attack. He mocks the attack until he realizes that Wolf has switched to a palm attack. Even that is a trick within a trick, as Wolf was actually reaching to clap both her hands. The moment her two hands connect, they release an extraordinary surge of energy, sending the assassin flying back. For the explanation of the technique, the young man explains that it's basically nothing more than a mere hand clap, except it is filled with an immense magical power. The origin of this power emerged during one of Maya's training lectures about releasing magic power. While Wolf had concentrated magic power in her hands, a mosquito appeared, and that mosquito had disintegrated from existence because of this wolf girl. The rest of them were all startled by the strange attack. After dealing a potent blow to the assassin, Wolf proceeds to follow up by leaping ahead and landing a bone-crushing drop kick, claiming her victory. Wolf stands victorious after her battle, even though the assassins think of her as nothing more than trash. Elas reminds them that she is a talent that became immensely powerful within a month of training. The assassins attack Elas, who deflects the strike and dares to finish them swiftly. A single strike of her blade cleaves one of the assassins into two, as she reminds them that even with their abilities, she can sense their presence. Lahit is in trouble because he has just realized that Elas was holding back her strength up to this point. She pulled a Sukuna and bisected a guy. Lahit is starting to grapple with the reality that he doesn't have great chances in this battle. He remembers that the otherworldly man is their top priority in killing, and he even looks to Wolf to realize that she is exhausted. Lahit casts a smoke screen strike and distracts Elas with his attack. His intention is to grab Wolf, and he thinks that they'll finally be able to gain the upper hand. That is, until a destructive spear completely annihilates his arm. Lahit fails to comprehend where the attack even came from. Grandpa Kara launched it from miles away. Lahit orders his men to provide him assistance, but they've already been sliced and diced to pieces thanks to the wrath of the greatest knight in Kingdom Taizu. Commander Ragdo demonstrates his mighty strength, paired with the famous spear god, Kara. Lahit questions if this ultimate strategy was all the result of the young man. The traveler comes out to explain that this strategy is effective for people like him, which is why he intentionally calculated every step of the process and made Ragdo and Kara appear late into battle. This guy is adding praise to Aizen's name, like the video if you think the same. He was the one who made Elas leave the area, then gave them an opening for Lacra. He also allowed them a clear opportunity to attack Wolf, thinking that they would get the upper hand. In short, Lahit now understands that the young man is out for blood. The young man vengefully declares that this is the outcome of the assassins having killed an innocent vagabond. Lahit thinks of Gazin's death as a tiny significance, but the young man reminds him that they will die for their actions. Lahit is also revealed to be the one who disguised Gazin's death and made it act like it was an accident. Lahit is intimidated by the young man's eyes and questions if he's even on the right side, since he acts the opposite of a hero. Imagine being such a terrifying force that even the villains want you on their side. The young man emphasizes that he's never killed anyone, even once. Lahit thinks that it's a terrible excuse since he utilizes others to do the job for them. Lahit makes his escape at once, and even though Elas tries to seize him, he manages to flee their sights. Ragdo and the others are left standing, as if nothing even happened. Lacra is losing her mind, because the book is under the control of the assassins. She bothers the young man for what they'll do as a response. The young man pretends that they're in trouble, and for the first time, Lacra realizes that he's lying. The traveler praises her for finally making use of her ability as if to sarcastically mock that she has never been able to do so before. Poor Lacra doesn't know she has been getting manipulated ever since their first encounter. While Lahit thinks that he has made his escape, he is confident that the book is their true objective. As he is about to cross the walls of the kingdom, suddenly he realizes that Lacra's barrier is interfering with his exit. Lacra's powers allow her barriers to send a resonance of a location when they come in contact with the book. In short, the rest of them are now aware of Lahit's location. When Lahit looks to his back, he gets eviscerated by a beam that also tears away the wall. Thus, this becomes the grave of the leader of the assassins. The young man turns to the site and notes that Elas' projectile attack makes it seem like it was the work of some cannon. With the resonance ability, they were able to pinpoint Lahit's location. After that, since Grandpa Kara had a range problem reaching the end of the barrier, Elas volunteered to reach it with her monstrous strength. That's exactly what happened, rendering Lahit a gruesome death with his body splattered all over. Thankfully, the book is just fine, because the young man used Commander Ragdo's strengthening spell before kickstarting his strategy. He also retrieves the orb that Lahit used as a communication device with the Demon Lord Worshipper. In the next scene, the group has gathered in the castle, waiting for contact to be made. Lakra stands helpless as she doesn't know what's going on so far. Wolf is asleep, while Ragdo, Lakra, Elas, King Marito, and the young man are all waiting in wait. Finally, the orb begins to illuminate as the man, on the other hand, demands Lahit to submit his report. The young man answers with glee after knowing the dead assassin's name. This interesting turnaround amuses the Demon Lord Worshipper. The young man declares that he's just their guinea pig target that they have been wanting to kill. This admission makes the Demon Lord Worshipper realize that Lahit has failed in his operation. He questions what the young man expects of him. The traveler claims that he was just using this as a way to talk, and mocks him for trying to kill him. The Demon Lord Worshipper explains that he was after the traveler's brain, so that he could retrieve any information he needed. The young man thinks that it's a lame hobby and asks for his name. Lahit introduces himself in kind. The young man cleverly glances towards Lakra to see if the name rings an emotional response. He realizes that she doesn't know such a person. Lahit wonders if he has some questions for him, and teases the young man about his secret identity. The young man strongly counters that he's nothing more than the Demon Lord's lapdog. Safe to say, Lahit is surprised and questions how he was able to draw such a conclusion. The young man replies that he's deciphered the contents of the book and emphasizes that even Lahit knows the contents, which is also why there was an order made to kill him. While Elas, Marito, and Lakra are stunned by this revelation, the young man exerts verbal pressure and questions if Lahit is fearful of his connections being exposed with the Demon Lord. Lahit's shift in demeanor only confirms the man's answers, who playfully challenges the Demon Lord Worshipper to put more of his composure against his words. Bruh, he's just dog walking him in this conversation and toying with his food. While the room grows silent, the young man decides to entertain Lahit and reveals that the book is actually a record of observations made specifically on the Blue Demon Lord. The original caster is someone who used to be a human and used resurrection magic to revive a man, manifesting him into the Blue Demon Lord. The book contains the record of that information. Not only that, the book suggests that there are a minimum of 4 demon lords who were birthed by the same figure, who could cast forbidden resurrection magic. The book includes details about the individual lifestyles of the people with whom the author was in contact before turning his test subjects into the demon lords. In fact, the author was actually responsible for killing those people to begin with. The young man furthers his explanation, stating that the person who bestowed their powers upon the demon lords mentioned their abilities. The demon lords are able to maintain a demon world of their own, which would become their respective territories, as well as the power to turn humans into demons. The demon lords were all given exclusive abilities as well. Out of the 4, the Blue Demon Lord reigned his dominion over the undead, and was called the Emperor of the Undead. The author of this book, the one responsible for creating the demon lords, shared all of his knowledge in order to wreak permanent chaos and unleash disaster upon the world. So, the worst has yet to come, goddamn. After his explanation, Lahit is now convinced that the young man truly decoded the book, and confirms that the traveler is an earthling. The young man confirms that he is, but in turn, he has also confirmed that Lahit isn't an earthling. That's because the way he pronounced earth sounded nothing like the word itself, as if he had only heard the word from others. Subtle gestures like these are an excellent way to showcase intelligence. The young man turns to the matter of Lahit serving the demon lords. He claims that their abilities are recorded in the book, which would become a real threat to their existence if the information was released to the public, which is why Lahit is so bent upon seizing it. Lahit reminds him that the Ugura Church was looking for the book in their investigations. The young man hammers him for keeping the contents of the book a secret from the Pope. When Lahit questions how he knows of the fact, the young man quotes the text directly from the book, confirming the return and revival of the fallen demon lords, which could once again rain destruction upon the world. Lahit is impressed by the traveler and asks how this links him with the demon lord. The young man explains that Lahit is the one who seized Doala's arm. In fact, it all began with the leader of the bandits, as he was an assassin of Meji's kingdom. There is the fact that Doala entrusted a stranger with the book and betrayed his kingdom. The reason is simple: Doala knew the forbidden resurrection magic user was an earthling, except Doala himself couldn't read the contents, so he only had Lahit as his source of information. After finding out that Lahit was puppeteering the Archbishop from behind the scenes, he realized that his country had fallen to the control of the Demon Lord in secret. That is the reason he stole the book and later realized it wasn't something that he could handle. Finally, when an Earthling appeared in the flesh, Doala entrusted the book to him. In short, Doala was hoping that he would be the one to overcome Lahit, who was hiding behind the crystal ball. Lahit is amused and confirms that Doala was an exceptional man who managed to see through him. The young man continues that Lahit, although he was manipulating the Ugura church, was still struggling to get a hold of the book, which is why he allowed Doala to do so and rid the world of the book. Lahit praises the Earthlings for their intellectual ability because of the young man's excellent deduction. However, this too is an attempt to stroke the traveler's ego, who knows that Lahit thinks of him as nothing more than a stupid man for revealing so much information. So Doala was a good guy all along. The traveler confirms that he doesn't want to live an intelligent life and instead hopes to live a safe life. He follows that if he truly wanted to live that kind of life, he would have become just like Lahit, who took advantage of others, thinking that he was superior. The young man had seen many people living like that, and it was the kind of life that he rejected. Lahit mocks the young man's conscience for not living in such a way. The young man declares that he is weak, and so he wants to live peacefully as his only objective. It's time to reveal the exciting plot twist. While they were having this conversation, Lahit immediately gets attacked by Archbishop Uka. The young man had already informed Pope Yupo of everything through Maya about the mastermind's existence within the church. This entire conversation was once again an excellent device, serving as a plan to seize Lahit, the mastermind. The Archbishop Uka corners Lahit, who realizes that his hypnosis has warded off. Uka shouts that his dirty tricks will no longer take effect upon him. Lahit realizes that Uka has prepared himself with mind resistance magic to counter the effects of the hypnosis. Uka orders him to surrender at once. Lahit emphasizes that the Archbishop is mistaken in assuming such a thing. He attacks Uka with crystals appearing from his blind spot. Uka is able to flee from their wrath, while Lahit casually walks away and bids his farewell. An angered Uka hammers down Lahit with the incredible force of his gravity magic. As Lahit descended to the ground, he noticed the magic circle that Uka skillfully cast above him. Lahit is impressed by Uka's abilities, even though he is considered the weakest of the archbishops. Uka confirms that he is weak, and even though his abilities are inferior to those of the ones sharing his rank, Uka voices that he is still an archbishop in his own right. With Lahit pinned to the ground, Uka assumes victory. Lahit is able to use more of his tricks and manages to destroy the magic circle above. The ceiling crumbles, while Lahit is made free and is about to escape. That is until Lahit is affected by sleeping incense, specially prepared to compromise his abilities. With the last of his powers, Lahit hurries to deploy the barrier and somehow fails to do so. Uka voices for the third time that Lahit's games have come to an end. He seals Lahit within a barrier, permanently ridding him of the idea of his escape. Lahit descends to pick up the magic crystal from the incense. He is stunned to find the magic sealing stone, and notes that this is the reason he cannot deploy his barrier. Lahit thinks that he has been outplayed in the end, and also comments on how Uka was able to cast not one, but two barriers at once, shifting the second barrier to entrap him with the incense. The Archbishop, who had been made a toy after all this time, was able to pull such terrifying tactics. Lahit assesses his situation, and thinks that he can't break the barrier because of his sealed magic, and the effects of the incense are overwhelming his body. He takes out a dagger and openly proclaims his defeat. Uka reminds him that such a tiny dagger wouldn't help him salvage the situation. Lahit corrects the Archbishop, claiming that their goal is to extract information from him, and if he takes care of that aspect, it will still be his victory. Uka suddenly realizes Lahit's intention. The man dons the creepiest smile on his face before slicing his neck. This moment became the end of Lahit, who proudly chose his own fate in the end. Budget Mojito lived and died like a true villain with respect. After his death, the Kingdom of Megis reported that he became responsible for his death so as to escape punishment. His corpse was also sealed properly so that no other party could get their hands upon it. The young man was surprised that Uka's powers managed to overwhelm Lahit to such an extreme extent. Lakra told him that it is actually because Uka is her combat teacher, which is reflective of her abilities as well. Bro got tired of being hypnotized so much that he straight up said, "You're catching all of the smoke now." King Marito explained roughly all of the contents of the book to Archbishop Maya as she was cleared from suspicion. Even Pope Yupero intends to travel to the kingdom of Taizu to apologize for the incident and retrieve the book himself. With that, the young man thinks that it's all over. Disrupting his peace, Marito points to the fact that the demon lord who is responsible for using Lahit is still alive and well. The young man knows this and tells Marito to handle the affair himself with Pope Yupero. Marito offers him the role of explaining the situation himself, but the young man thinks it's too heavy a role for him. Marito jokingly states that the traveler should just become the king instead. That aside, they haven't advanced much, even after solving much of the puzzle. The greatest prophecy of the book is still a huge problem, which they haven't told the others about. The young man thinks that it will become so catastrophic that their entire world will be in chaos. When he thinks about his peaceful days to follow, Marito tells him that he has to show up tomorrow as well to tell him more about his world. The traveler states that it was just a front, and not really an important aspect, as the book was their main priority. Due to Marito's interest, he wants to extend the contract with the young man, who is so exhausted that he will never be able to attain peaceful days in the end. Get this man his peaceful days. In the scene to follow, the traveler arrives at Maya's church. Wolf lightens up to spot her master as she is working hard in her studies. Maya commends Wolf and taunts the young man for always scheming with King Marito. She howls at him for influencing Elas to the point that she keeps Maya's secrets. On a different note, Maya is glad that Elas is experiencing much mental development, as the girl is only chasing after her father's shadow. Maya appreciates the change, but she doesn't like the fact that this newbie from another planet is compromising her relationship with her best friend's daughter. The young man apologizes and turns to Wolf. He apologizes to Wolf as well. Wolf is confused and wonders if she did something wrong. The young man doesn't hide the fact that he used Wolf as bait in his strategy against the assassins, making her look like the weakest target as an effective method. Even though there could have been others, he used Wolf as bait. For that, the young man confesses that he is no different than the torturers of the Black Wolf tribe, who use her for their means. Wolf is irked by this admission and denies him of such a comparison. She tells him that he was angry on behalf of Wolf back in the village, which became the most precious treasure of the Wolf girl. Wolf thinks that it's fine for him to get angry on behalf of others, and that she wants to help him in his cause. The young man is pleasantly struck by her words and pats her. He thinks that she will grow up and become an amazing person, instead of being someone like him, with his emotions getting stirred. Even though he knew Gazin for a few moments, the young man's emotions spiraled upon his death, which is why Elas warned him to such an effect. In memory of the deceased vagabond, the young man suggests that they grow some crops inside their home. Having soaked his hands in malicious acts, the young man internalizes that he is not a good person, but he wants to find the book Gazin has been keeping to grow his crops. When he does, the man wants to offer Gazin a few crops as a memory, despite knowing the older man's appreciation for sake. Comment down RIP Gazin in the comments to pay respects. That said, the man has some tragic news to share with Wolf. He officially declares that Lacra is joining their house. Wolf is confused and wonders why it's considered sad news at all. A few hours ago, while he was enjoying the nice weather and thriving in his peaceful life, the young man had come to appreciate magic, as the damages from the battle were completely restored. In fact, they were also able to recover the castle wall that was destroyed by Elia's destructive attack, and made it look brand new. Commander Ragdo and his men prioritized their efforts to fix the damages within a single night. Their abilities impress the young man, who acts like a little child wanting to learn magic of his own. While he is having fun by himself, a sobbing Lacra is endlessly crying. The young man doesn't want anything to do with her misery and wants to leave. Lacra grabs him, while he begs her to let him enjoy a good day for once. Lacra shares that she got kicked out of Maya's church. The young man is surprised they expelled her, but Lacra states that she didn't really get expelled. The traveler notes that Lacra is useless and made too much of a mess in Maya's church until Pope Yupero's arrival. The barriers that she installed around the villages were also pretty slow to progress, as the other priests could do the job much faster. The young man had already expected her expulsion to happen, but he wasn't expecting it to be so soon. Lacra pleads with him for help, but he's got no chance and doesn't cater to her requests. He tells her that he's living in Elia's place and can't accept another freeloader. Lacra teases him for living under the roof of a young man. Lacra shares that her supervision is necessary for their household. Her lame excuse isn't entertained by the young man, who shuts her down. Lacra begs him so much that he resigns and gives up hope. Elas turns up with a snack and states that she is fine with keeping her around. The young man is most surprised by her easygoing attitude. Elas states that she can't really ignore a woman sleeping outside in the open. The young man thinks that she acts too much like a cool hero, and reminds her that they only have 3 bedrooms to work with. He also doesn't want Lakra to share her bedroom with Lakra since they're all freeloaders. Elas suggests Lakra stay in Wolf's bedroom, but the traveler gets offended and thinks that her uselessness might transfer to the poor girl. Elas suggests that they should utilize the storage room instead. The young man thinks they should ask for Wolf's consent first. At present, Wolf accepts Lakra because she is fond of her. The young man is defeated as a result, and thinks that they should clean up the storage room fast. They get to work while Lakra is watching. The second he decides to contribute to their clearing mission, she trips and falls. When she is enjoying her bath, Lakra spots a spider and screams, blaming the young man for the spider. After a while, they're able to clean the storage room. That's when Lakra once again trips and falls, ruining their floor. At night, Elas returns home from her shift and is welcomed by her 3 wonderful freeloaders. She's also surprised that she had so much stored in her storage room. The furniture had all to do with her family. Elas inspects the sword and states that the weapon was given to her father by the previous king. While her father was a knight of Taizu, Elas' mother was a priest. She claims that they were great parents and hopes to donate the items to Maya's church, as well as Ragdo's group. When looking at her father's clothes, Elas is surprised that they're the same as the young man's size. She wants him to try the outfit and thinks that he will become a righteous person by chance. The young man jokes that it would only mean the outfit is cursed. With a smile on her face, Elas thinks they should resume the matter tomorrow and relays King Marito's message. After sharing dinner, the 3 freeloaders and the knight go off to sleep. The following day, King Marito declares that Elas has an important mission to guard someone with her life. Elas is surprised, while the young man thinks that Marito probably means Pope Upero. Marito explains that he won't be coming soon, and that this so-called important person is actually a traveler from another world. Marito emphasizes that the traveler is invaluable and might become a target of people like Lahit in the future. This is to ensure he is protected. Even though Marito's explanation is sound, the young man is at odds with the fact that Elas gets to be his bodyguard. He is conflicted, so King Marito wonders if he wants a male bodyguard instead. Of course, this remark pushes Elas' buttons. The young man knows that he is in some serious hot water, so he makes up for the situation by stating that he actually prefers a woman. The young man draws his contention, stating that his compatibility with Elas isn't the best, and among the knights, he'd rather take Grandpa Kara. This bold declaration said without a thought spirals Elas. Does our boy want an early death or something? She's not gonna let that comment slide. What actually ends up happening is that Elas challenges Grandpa Kara in a show of strength and an all-out duel to prove that she is the strongest. Poor Grandpa Kara doesn't even know what happened. Rest in peace, Grandpa Kara, you were a good man. Grandpa Kara clings to the young man and wonders why she is so upset. The traveler explains it's because Marito assigned her to protect him, and it all led to this outcome. Grandpa Kara inquires what truly made her upset, and if a comment derailed her. The young man remembers that he told Marito to assign him Grandpa Kara instead of Elas. This offended her to the point Grandpa Kara is now part of a duel. Grandpa Kara reminds him that the knights highly value honor, and that she would obviously be offended by his bold remark. Grandpa Kara enters the battle, and thinks that he got needlessly tangled, although he is impressed that the boy honors him to such a level. The spear god prepares his weapon, while the young man internalizes that this will be his first true inference of their strength. Elas bears monstrous power, while Grandpa Kara has great abilities. The battle begins with Grandpa Kara advancing to attack Elas. His spear is dodged by the precise movements of Elas. Grandpa Kara returns for a second blow, and tries to overwhelm Elas with his speed. Elas takes note of the young man's remark, and gets even more pissed about their comparison. She casually holds up poor Grandpa Kara, and launches him away. While he is recovering from the fall, Elas pummels down with her massive strength. The weight of her attack is enough to paralyze him in his place. Grandpa Kara is officially defeated. The young man thinks that Kara literally died from shock, but it's revealed that his lower back gave out, blocking the attack. Okay, now that's just hilarious. With him defeated, the young man scolds Elas for not going easy on an older man. Elas counters that he is a veteran knight, meaning she couldn't hold her punches. She is also embarrassed to admit that she did it to prove herself as the strongest. The young man inquires if she is still upset about his remark. He clarifies that he only said those words because Kara makes it easier for him to make plans. The young man explains that he prefers succeeding in his plans, and someone like Kara follows them precisely as asked. when compared to Elia's overpowered strength. As much as she is powerful, she becomes an obstacle, as her enemies would know of her might. The young man thinks that it would be too easy for him to resolve situations if she protects him. Instead, he wants someone to be versatile and adapt to his plans, for his enemies to become overwhelmed. In a way, he wants to appear weak and defenseless in front of his enemies. Now, that's a 3000 IQ play. The young man pats Elas and states that he will ruin his planning abilities if he relies on Elia's strength, and he doesn't wish for that to happen. He apologizes to her, and as a result of his apology, Elas goes away to apologize to Grandpa Kara. While he is compromised on his bed after suffering the injury from the fight, Elas apologizes for hurting him and involving him in a personal affair. Kara doesn't think much of it, and shares how glad he is that she is stubborn regarding the young man. Kara declares that love is the reason why. Of course, such a comment once again receives a brooding challenge from Elas, who is ready to hit his lower back for an added taste of injury. I swear this old man is signing up for his funeral after barely surviving the fight, haha. Kara thinks he's about to die, so he tells her that love is characterized by admiration for another person. It's a yearning for something that one doesn't have by himself. Kara explains that the young man shares a different code of life from the knights. He is willing to go down the path of evil if it means accomplishing his goals, which runs opposite to the knights who value their moral code the most. Grandpa Kara believes that Elas admires him for doing both good and evil with his code in order to accomplish his objectives. Of course, it's not something she would ever do. But for the young man, it's different because he understands the righteous way, as well as the methodical, calculating strategies. To nail the point, Kara tells Elas that she actually wants him to acknowledge her, because he is capable of doing the things that she would never be able to do. Elas is flustered and somewhat disheartened, receiving such an explanation. She thinks of herself as an immature person, but Kara thinks otherwise. Kara confesses that being acknowledged by the ones who have everything they don't is a joyous outcome. Elas smiles, hearing his soothing words, and thanks him before leaving. After she leaves, Grandpa Kara feels betrayed by the boy who very nearly killed him, as a result of a stupid battle. That night, Elas shares a meal with the young man, and apologizes once more. Elas has become his bodyguard, due to the outcome of the duel, and he questions why he's keeping a stick around. The young man gets pumped, and explains that this is his wooden stick of destruction that he picked all the way back in the forest. Elas remarks that it's a stupid weapon that will split in half easily. She offers him other weapons. The young man prefers using the wooden stick as a symbol of his resolution. It reminds him that even with his strong allies, he is as frail as a stick. This is not a weapon against his opponents, but to combat his pride. It's also the most powerful stick in the entire universe, of course. He also talks about his eventual leave. Elas wonders what he implies by those words. The young man explains that, eventually, he plans to leave the country to explore other countries. Elas questions if he is discontent with living in the kingdom of Taizu. The young man corrects her, stating that he wants to return to his previous world. Even though he is enjoying life in the present moment, he doesn't know how it will be in the future. He doesn't want to miss the advancements and conveniences offered by his original world, and fears the thought of getting bored on this foreign planet. That's why he wants to create a failsafe measure until then. Elas tells him that if he does that, Wolf will be lonely. The young man explains that he will ensure she becomes independent and learns to admire her world, so that her dependence on him wards off. When Elas asks about his friends and family back on Earth, the young man is stung by the sudden topic, and chooses not to delve deeper into his personal life for the time being. After he leaves, Elas is haunted by his words and methods of going about life. She knows that the path of evil influences him, and he masters the path without hesitation. She thinks that someone like herself would never be able to return from such a path, but he does it without problem, and maintains a balance. Elas is reminded of Grandpa Kara's words, and thinks that they're the same in that regard, as they're drawn to each other for qualities that they lack. While she is unaware of the path he will choose in the future, Elas thinks that it's fine for now. The following morning, Elas barges into his room while he is still asleep. As she has become his bodyguard, Elas tends to him wherever he goes, to the point he has to tell her to go away while he's changing. Even while he's eating, she sharply observes him. This extends all the way, even outside, where Elas keeps a close eye on him and somehow smiles as a consequence. Best girl Elas counter over 9,000. After his conversation with King Marito, the king explains that he is intrigued by Earth's ability to forecast weather, as well as the differences in their military strengths. He switches the topic to Lacra Sulf and mentions that the young man has been keeping her around. The traveler explains that it happened due to a number of different events and that he intends to make use of her. Even though Lacra is exceptionally useless while doing many things at once, her talent really shines when she prioritizes her energy on a single task. In fact, that is the reason she is considered unstoppable in battle, as her single focus is to eliminate her enemies. She even surprised Maya with her complex embroidery work at an unbelievable speed. The main issue comes with Lacra's mindset and mentality overall. Marito is impressed that the girl managed to cooperate with him to such an extent. The young man realizes that the king is fearful of Lacra converting him to the kingdom of Megis. He confirms that she is too stupid to do such a thing. The king is impressed that he was able to see through his words. They enter the royal garden, which is Marito's prized possession. They talk about the seasonal plants on Earth. The young man feels positive, thinking that the magic power could be used as a source of nutrition in this world. He even comments that the trees of the Black Demon Lord Killer Mountain were surprisingly beautiful. The young man didn't expect Marito to fall in love with gardening so much. Elas is stalking them nearby and seems bored. Marito questions if Elas also fancies admiring flowers. Elas denies such a thing and shows her interest in weapons. Both Marito and the young man chalk her down for being a weird person and switch to a different topic. Marito questions if the young man is interested in the idea of settling down with a woman. In his case, he has to marry at least 3 queens for an heir to the throne. The young man thinks that it's only expected of the royal people. Marito's father had 3 wives, and he became the only prince with 4 sisters on the side. The young man realizes that Marito basically got a free ticket to the throne, since he was the only prince of the group. Marito confirms and even states that the rest of her sisters became adventurers and fled the country. This revelation shocks the young man, who realizes that traditions don't tie the Taizu kingdom to royalty, and that no one urges them to marry. Marito is pleased and wants the young man to share their matchmaking adventures. Elas barges into the conversation and claims that the young man doesn't like young girls and fancies older women. While a man of culture spotted, he's just based. The young man feels embarrassed that she said something so profane about him. Elas concludes that he's been treating Maya respectfully and maturely out of the rest, which is why she thinks his tastes are on the older side. The younger man is stunned and tells her that it's simply because she's a senior and not because he likes older women. He considers Lacra a nuisance and can't see Wolf the same way. As for Elas, he claims not to see her as an eyesore, at least. The young man teases Elas when it comes to her femininity paired with monstrous brute strength. While they're sharing this banter, King Marito is having the time of his life enjoying the conversation. The young man deduces that Marito wants him to settle down with a woman so that he doesn't escape Taizu. Marito confirms and claims that there is no one like him, which is why he is willing to do anything for the cause. The young man tells him that he's not leaving in the meantime, but Marito is thinking long term and hopes to join him on the matchmaking adventures as a friend. They establish a new rule where one of them will have to introduce a woman altogether instead of attacking with numbers. Marito's main advantage as a king is stripped away, because this one-on-one setting evens the battlefield. They made a second rule, which was to ensure they didn't use dirty tricks. After the meeting, Elas questions why the young man stupidly involved him in his dumb game. The traveler tells her that he fully intends to find a suitable partner for King Marito. Best manipulator, best wingman. Meanwhile, Marito himself is enjoying the view of the garden with a sincere smile. The assassin makes his presence known and advises him not to smile carelessly. Marito shares his passion for spending time with someone like the traveler. Marito is still worried that he'll leave Taizu, but he really finds himself intrigued by his accomplishments. The assassin confirms that the fragile traveler is actually capable of producing outcomes that far surpass even their best knights. King Marito is caught off guard by this compliment, as the assassin never praises someone like that. The assassin explains that everyone in the country is weak in his view. Marito even states that he thought of assigning the assassin to the young man. But of course, that wouldn't be possible, because then the assassin would be unable to fulfill their contract. King Marito smiles and thinks that things will get busy from here on out. After a few days, Pope Yupo and his team arrive in the kingdom of Taizu. He greets the king with respect and apologizes for his blunder. Pope Yupo bows for the trouble caused, while King Marito states that their troubles were kept to a minimum, so it's fine. Marito alludes to the existence of Lahit and claims that their main issue is the book. Marito hands the document to Pope Yupo and claims that 3 people know about the contents of the book, including him and Ragdo, as well as one man who is capable of reading the book. Pope Yupo looks towards the young man and realizes that he is a traveler from the foreign world. He offers to shake his hand because he wants to know more about him. This is actually because Pope Yupo can see exactly how a person has lived their life. The young man doesn't feel threatened and shakes his hand. While their hands are tied together, Pope Yupo declares him a coward and mentions the traveler is trying to comprehend any situation, as well as strategizing against them. He even mentions that Earth is where people with evil intent are commonly found. His words and grasp of knowledge confirm to the young man that he's talking to a serious person. He agrees with everything Yupo mentioned. Yupo apologizes for him, and even thanks the young man for his powers in finding the demon of their country. The traveler tells him to visit the grave of Gazin, who became a victim of their affairs instead. The traveler seems to be interested in Lilisa as he questions if they've met each other before. Lilisa remarks that they haven't, as this is the first time. Because of his suspicions, the young man wants to confirm his doubts. He tells them that he, too, wants to perform a similar technique to Pope Yupo and test it on everyone. The task is simple. They will have to repeat the exact words he says. He tells Pope Yupo to confess his identity. After that, the young man turns to Archbishop Aka and tasks him the same. The clumsy archbishop stutters and says the same. The young man explains that he is mixing lies and truth to measure their confidence. Turning to Yox, he uses him to confess that he is the captain of the Magi's Holy Knights. After clearing Yox, the young man finally turns to Lilisa, the subject of his interest. First, he tells her to repeat a declaration of being Pope Yupo, then Archbishop Aka, and lastly, Captain Yox. Lilisa complies until the young man stops and shockingly tells Lilisa to repeat the words "I am Lahit." His words paralyze those who are standing in the room, even Lilisa, who is speechless. Lilisa carves a demonic grin on her face, hinting that Lahit is still alive.